Everyone. I'm Sybil Starr, and I'm here to give the astrology forecast for the Leo full moon, which occurs at Leo 24 degrees 6 minutes on February 12th at 5:54 a.m. All right, so let us begin by looking at this full moon. Okay, looking at its chart. All right. Here we go. All right. So the Leo full moon is on February 12th, 2025, 5:54 a.m. That's Pacific time. All right. So what we've got here, of course, at the full moon, here's the full moon at 24 degrees, 6 minutes of Leo. It's always going to be opposite the sun. Okay. Always. So the sun is at 24 degrees, 6 minutes of Aquarius. Now the sun is conjunct the dwarf planet Ceres and Mercury, god of the mind. Now, and of course, the moon is conjunct the part of Earth. Now, these two both are in a square to Uranus. So that's called a T square. Okay. And this is really powerful. And Uranus is, of course, the ruler of the Aquarian sun. Some other things we have going on, of course, we still have Pluto in Aquarius. And the thing about the full moon, it is the culmination of the intention that was set at the new moon. And the new moon in Aquarius, Mercury and Pluto were tightly conjunct and the early degrees of Aquarius. So that is actually still in play. What else we've got going on? We've still got this Mars in Cancer retrograde in a square to Chiron over here at 19 degrees of Aries. Okay. Now, these two, Mars is going to go direct on February 23rd, and as at 17 degrees of Cancer. And as it does, it's going to remain in this square with Chiron for another full month. Okay. All right. We also have the Neptune is conjunct the North Node. Oh, and I forgot to mention that Mars is also in a trine to Saturn. So those are the primary aspects. There's other things going on, but those are the ones that I'm mainly going to talk about. All right, so what does all of this mean? Anyway, so we have, like I said, we've got the Leo full moon. And at the full moon, it's always an integration of both signs. So it's the axis. We're looking at the axis of both signs, the Leo Aquarius axis, and then ultimately the integration. And to me, one of the most powerful meanings of the Leo Aquarius axis is is the word namaste, because Leo and the sun rules Leo, and it's so much about the divine spark that lives within each one of us. And Aquarius is recognizing the divine spark in everyone. So it's the God in me recognizes and honors the God in you. Or we could say the divine spark in me recognizes and honors the divine spark in you, which is the cosmic Christ within each one of us. And so, cosmic Christ consciousness, I like this explanation of it by Alana Fairchild. She says it is unconditional love in the form of Christ consciousness, the sacred, peaceful, kind, and generous nature of my own heart. And to know that Leo rules the heart, and Aquarius rules the circulatory system. So they are connected. So it's like the divine light, this unconditional love that we carry in our hearts, this Christ consciousness, and then how it is shared throughout our body through the circulatory system, and it's shared throughout the collective consciousness, not just ours. So Leo is about our own divine spark. Aquarius is how we share it in the world and touch others. Okay. It's about the individual versus group energy. And when they come together, it's very much about creative thinking. Okay. All right. So the Leo moon itself is, like I said, the divine spark, and it brings up the inner child. And the inner child is archetype, is creative, warm, spontaneous, and generous. A Leo moon is very warm-hearted and often very charismatic. And the Leo moon reminds us of the importance of play and fun and to not take everything so seriously. It's the activation of the inner child that tells us that, play is sacred. Play is sacred and play is healing. And the shadow of the Leo moon is an unconscious need for attention and needing to be the center of attention. All right, now we've got the Aquarius sun and its conjunct Ceres and Mercury. So Aquarius is the visionary, the revolutionary, the rebel, heretic, and it asks us to think outside of the box. And it's humanitarian and contrarian. Aquarius brings science and spirituality together with a deeper understanding of the quantum field and how to work with it. It is the exploration. Aquarius is about the exploration of the mysteries of the cosmos, and the deepest mystery is actually ourselves. And so I love the motto, "Know thyself," that is inscribed at the temple at the Oracle of Delphi. Aquarius is a process of discovery of our authentic self, to know thyself. And the other motto I really like in relation to Aquarius, it's about to thine own self be true, to always be true to ourselves, even without the approval of others. That's actually one of the major teachings of Aquarius, to be true to ourselves without the approval of others. Aquarius asks us to see the big picture, and the shadow of Aquarius is emotional detachment. It can be a rebel without a clue and a contrarian. Okay. All right. And a rebel without a clue is when we rebel against authority figures, but in ways that really don't have any impact. We're just expressing that. And so that is my teacher used to call that a rebel without a clue. Okay. Anyway, all right. So is square Uranus. And of course, Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, and Uranus is you just never know what to expect. It's, the old cliche, expect the unexpected. Things are shaking and moving, and there's really no controlling when Uranus comes along. It's best to just let go of any need to hold on and try to control. I saw this great meme and it said, "Buckle up. The shift is about to hit the fan." And that is exactly right. The shift is about to hit the fan. And the truth is, the shift is hitting the fan. And there's an idiom that says when the SHIT hits the fan, which alludes to the messy and hectic consequences brought about by a previously secret situation becoming public. And if that doesn't describe what's going on now, I don't know what does. And of course, it's really meaning too, the shift in consciousness is accelerating, and it can be messy with many new awakenings and illuminations and just changing our whole reality in 1 second. It's totally a wild card. You just kind of never know what Uranus is bringing. It's what is also happening is increased energy waves and solar flares are increasing now. So the more light is also coming in. It can mean evolution to higher states of being and spiritual perceptions, those aha moments that, is kind of like the light comes on. It's like suddenly you can't understand something, and then suddenly you do. It's like you just get it. Um, and it is also about increased synchronicities. So pay attention. And like I said, it is a wild card. We don't know what is happening. So hold on for the ride, be patient, and center yourself. Uranus rules electricity, and so we can also have electrical charges. Uranus actually comes along whenever there's any stuck places, any places that where we are stuck. If it's activating any of our personal planets, it's helping us get unstuck. Uh, but in the process, it can bring increased chaos and with increased uncertainty and change. And the image I kept getting when I looked, when I was working on kind of trying to understand what this full moon was about, I kept getting the breaking of an egg. And what really it came down to is the breaking of the heart so that love can flow. And it's kind of like that thin shell. It's like sometimes for our hearts to be open, they have to be broken open. And they don't. And so that is, I think, a piece of this as well. It's bringing disruption and a wrecking ball to the old paradigm. We really see this happening in the outer world. I mean, it's like we've known things have been uh, dis disintegrating isn't really the right word. Things have been breaking down, but slowly, while the acceleration process is happening. So it's like a wrecking ball to the old paradigm because there's so much increased light coming in that it cannot, the energy that does not align with the new light is just simply being broken wide open, just like that egg. Okay. Uncertainty bringing it, and with that it is bringing uncertainty because we really cannot control what is happening. And I read this and I thought it was really good. It said your life will be defined by your ability to handle uncertainty, and that is really the truth. This is a stormy time. Uranus, is also related to earth activity, increased earth changes, erratic weather, and Uranus is like earthquakes, and it's also lightning and storms. And it's like the storm that comes through that clears the path. We're in the minute. It's been going on. This new moon is gonna really accelerate it. Or excuse me, this full moon. And I did want to say this about the full moon as well. At the full moon, our emotional bodies are tremendously impacted by the full moon, and as well as the tides here on Mother Earth. And anybody who works in healthcare or law enforcement or any places like that can tell you at the full moon things get crazy. And there's what they used to call people who worship the moon lunatics, or we might call them lunatics, because it's very irrational. It's really our emotional body that is responding. And they say Mother Earth herself even rises 6 inches to meet the full moon. So, and so it's changing weather patterns, or it could be earthquakes. We've already had I think the Caribbean had a really big earthquake. There could be others. There could be other storms because Mother Earth is also shifting frequencies. Okay. It is a strong activation of our light bodies with more light pouring in. And Uranus rules the energy bodies and the Kundalini. So there could be an activation of the Kundalini life force. Okay. And to know this is a really great thing that I found. It said activation of Kundalini and Christ consciousness. Kundalini and Christ consciousness, though originating from different traditions, share fundamental similarities. Both represent a profound spiritual awakening, a transformation of consciousness that leads to a deeper understanding of oneself and the universe. This awakening often involves a release of ego, an increase in compassion, and a sense of interconnectedness with all things. Both concepts also involve an experience of energy and light, with Kundalini often visualized as a rising energy and Christ consciousness associated with divine light. Ultimately, both are deeply personal experiences that transcends words and offer the potential for significant personal growth and spiritual evolution. So, no, this is in the field, okay? And I'm going to say, the full moon, the energy lasts really 3 days, but I would say it's really this whole second half of the lunar cycle. The full moon is in effect. All right, this full moon is in Taurus. And, Taurus tells us to stay centered within yourself and in the present moment, to be like the tree whose roots go deep down into the ground while the storm swirls around. This is the only way to get through this kind of stormy, energetic weather. To be patient and kind as the world sinks deeper into chaos. Know that the chaos is here. And the only true reality is within ourselves. That is the true reality. I feel like there will be an illumination on our finances and the finances of the US. We're certainly seeing some illumination there with waste, fraud, and corruption in our government being illuminated. And things are changing so quickly in the outer world to know that the only real truth resides within yourself. Now, the Sabian symbol for this full moon is a large camel crossing a vast and forbidding desert. This symbol implies the need to push ahead in difficult times, going alone and coping even in the most difficult circumstances. It also shows being self sufficient or someone with a big journey to complete. Be confident that you have the reserves to survive and the endurance to succeed. All right, now, next thing we're going to talk about is Pluto in Aquarius. Now, at the new moon, Pluto and Mercury were conjunct in the early degrees of Aquarius. Mercury has moved ahead. It is now at 26 degrees, but that energy is still there, because it sets the intention for the whole month. So Pluto in Aquarius is about, and Mercury is about revelations on many levels, inner and outer. Pluto and Mercury in Aquarius ask us to use critical thinking skills to discern what is true and what is not, because there is a lot of information out there that is meant to trigger fear and is so important to be non-reactionary, to just let it kind of flow through, kind of flow like water, let it just kind of roll over you, because it's going to change the next minute. And like I was saying, if you continually react to everything showing up, it's going to be really hard on your health to know things are just changing that quickly and to keep your center. Okay. Now, the last time, and of course, the veil is lifting. So it's so important to be able to look carefully at what you are actually seeing, at what we are being shown. Sometimes these truths come up and they can be painful at first, but ultimately they bring inner peace. Now, the last time Pluto was in Aquarius was during the French and American revolutions. And at that time, there was a real shift in the long-standing paradigm of the divine right of kings. Some monarchies did survive, but not in the form of absolute power that they held before. And so now we're getting another Pluto in Aquarius, and we're just in the last stages of the last energies of the Pluto return of the United States. So we are also in the midst of a paradigm shift, which is even bigger than what the shift back in the late 1700s, because it really is about moving into a whole new level of consciousness and really impacting the collective consciousness. Pluto always shows where something is corrupted. And so in Aquarius, it shows corruption in our systems or our paradigm. And just for example, I think it's pretty clear to most people how poorly our medical system works, that it no longer works for most people, that there are good people trying to work in a very broken system. And Pluto in Aquarius is going to accelerate the breakdown so a rebirth can happen. And many agencies in our government are corrupted. The system by which the government works have become corrupted, so the wrecking ball is coming in to accelerate the breakdown. Pluto in Aquarius is about the evolution of consciousness and the transformation of the collective consciousness through changing inwardly, to know that the only way out is in. Pluto in Aquarius requires radical self-honesty, and it's an inner journey to self-empowerment through deep healing of old wounds that often bring, well, the shadow. Pluto is the shadow. It brings up our shadow material. So if you have planets in the early degrees of Aquarius, Leo, Scorpio, or Taurus, you may be really impacted by this Pluto in Aquarius. And the key to the healing is to be able to own our stuff and to not project it out. Because ultimately it's about deep soul work through deep self honesty, an authenticity of self, soul work, and ultimately a transformation through radical self forgiveness. Like I said, Pluto asks us to be deep levels of self honesty. And I love this Rumi quote. It says, "That which is false troubles the heart, but truth brings joyous tranquility. Deep truth brings us peace, even if it is difficult. And as we transform ourselves, we transform our world." All right. I want to show you I have a, okay, I want to show this to you. Okay. This is by Joseph Keel. Okay. And it says, in a world characterized by chaos and confusion, the journey inward to discover one's authentic self has never been more crucial. Realize that oppressive systems thrive on our insecurities, aiming to implant doubt and fear. However, the power to transform this reality lies within each of us. By attuning to our innate creative spirit, we can unite and overcome adversity, heralding a profound transformation both individually and collectively. So I think that is just really important. That kind of sums a lot of that up. And Pluto is continuing to be conjunct the stars of Aquila, the eagle. And like I have shared, I'll just share it again. The eagle is the only bird that goes into the storm so that you can rise above the storm. The storm is here. It's like really facing those fears that you have, go right into the storm. And then it's as we raise our frequency is when we can rise above the storm and get the eagle's eye view and see the bigger picture. And when we rise above the storm, it allows us to not participate in the drama that is currently happening here on Mother Earth. And it's also about hearing the celestial call to your soul mission. All right. Now, we talked about Mars in Cancer. Okay, so Mars, of course, is the warrior, the protector. Mars is one of the most difficult energies to handle because it does bring up conflict. It does ask us to stand up for ourselves, it asks us to protect others, and it's also about our direction in life, and it's really a life force energy. It's our sexual desires, our sexuality, and our desire nature, all of those things. And so Mars is retrograde right now. Will turn direct on February 23rd at 17 degrees of Cancer. So what is Mars in Cancer? Okay, so Mars in Cancer is very protective of family and clan, but it can be very touchy and defensive. And someone asked this question, and I'm just going to share it with you. She asked, "Have we turned into toxic tribalism?" Um, Cancer is so much about tribe, family, and clan, and Mars. Mars is one of the planets that is the most difficult to do well, and so toxic tribalism is a group identity that fosters the bullying and scapegoating of others not like you. And that would be a shadow of Mars, bullying, okay, scapegoating. Toxic tribalism joins people out of anger, jealousy, or spite, and not for the collective well being. With the constant urging of toxic tribalism, we stay angry, and that can affect our personal well-being. And it's when and the thing is, in fear, in times of great uncertainty, when things are changing, it can bring up fear. And when we are afraid, we find someone to blame. We are in the midst of a huge paradigm shift where everything is changing and it is bringing up lots of fear. Um, and so Elizabeth Siegel, PhD from Psychology Today, the first quote on toxic tribalism came from her. And she continues with, when we can step outside ourselves through empathy and see the world from the view of others, when we use empathy to understand others, we see how we are similar, how we are all human beings. Empathy can broaden our sense of connections to others and diminishes toxic tribalism. Okay. And so this is the great divide. And this is really what we need to heal ourselves and to ascend. This is kind of, I think, it's all comes from the heart and how we love ourselves and each other. Okay. And to remember that we are part of the family of humanity and that everyone was here to have a different experience through a different perspective. Okay. All right. Now, as I said, Mars is retrograde. It's been retrograde since December 6th, turns direct on February 23rd. When a planet is retrograde, they're closest to Earth. And it brings in kind of a sense of confusion. Mars is very direct, it wants to take action. Whereas when it goes retrograde, it says that we need to think before we act. And sometimes it can bring in a sense of feeling lost or not knowing what to do. And I feel like a piece of this is about becoming aware of any actions that are based in fear. And when we are aware, we can heal that fear. Cancer is about affairs of the heart. So ultimately, it is about healing old wounds of the heart so that our actions are based in love. Mars retrograde asks us to slow down so we can respond and not react. Mars, like I said, it goes direct on February 23rd. So when it goes direct, we might start to have a better sense of direction and what actions to take, and the heart healing will actually begin. And anger, uh, and the other thing is about anger as determination, when we can own our anger. I have a really great uh, meme I want to share, or a little post I want to share here around this. Okay, here it is. Okay, so anger turned into determination is actually a high frequency. Don't hold it in your body, it will only poison you. Transmute it into courage and willingness. Burn it up as jet fuel for greatness. Emotional alchemy is one of the highest forms of magic you can do in human form. So, anger is a natural response to certain situations. The key is to not hold it in your body and use it to create change. And you can only do that when you own it. Okay. When you, rather than, let's say, blaming someone else. All right. Now, Mars is also out of balance. Mars is just really active right now. And you can see Mars in the sky. Mars is very visible now because it's in Cancer, and it's that red planet that's in the sun, that's in the sky. Mars is out of bounds from December 30th to April 4th. So it's kind of out of its normal orbit. Its normal orbit is a little off, and it brings extremes of energy, and it's difficult to control. It's energy that's just simply difficult to control. It can, on the positive side, it can bring bold, courageous leadership, and on the more negative side, extremes of violence, conflict, and aggression. Now, Mars is also square Chiron, and so we may be exceptionally triggered now. So once again, if anger comes up, as you own it, you get clear on it. You don't blame someone else for making you angry. What is in there that is wanting your attention? You can certainly turn it into determination, and anger can be a great motivator to make the changes that we need to make. But anyway, square Chiron is about focus on healing your self-confidence, personal will, personal sovereignty, and fear of taking initiative or facing challenges. It's actually very self-powering. And personal sovereignty is where we say yes and where we say no. What you say yes to determines your life. And I feel like it's also a big piece, once again, of healing that passion. That as our hearts are healed and we can start saying, this is what I want, this is what I don't want, our direction starts to unfold, and it's really aligning with that life force passion that is within us. Okay. And of course, the less reactionary you are, the better you will feel. Now, Mars is also trine Saturn. And with this gives us the strength, ambition, and perseverance to take on hard tasks and complete them with patience and self-discipline. This is an excellent time to follow through on something you are passionate about once you are clear. Okay. And Mars is in trine to Saturn all the whole month of February and part of March. Okay. Or I would say some significant time in March as well. All right. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about is Neptune and the North Node conjunction in Pisces. And this is going on from January till April, so it's a really big one, and it's in the last degrees of Pisces. But then Neptune moves into the early degrees of Aries, but is still conjunct the North Node. But we're going to talk about it in Pisces. All right. So Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. And the North Node and Neptune are transiting the last few degrees. And of course, the North Node is our way forward. And Neptune has a lot to do with our connection to the spiritual realm and to the realms of imagination, otherworldly experiences. Okay. Neptune is also known as the divine heart, and it once again brings in the unconditional love of the universe. But anyway, as they're traveling together, it may represent the final phase of a journey and the completion of a cycle, because Pisces is the last sign and Neptune is transiting the last degrees of Pisces. It's the last uh, degrees of the zodiac until there's a rebirth in Aries, okay, zero Aries. So anyway, it may represent the final phase of a journey and the completion of a cycle. So let go and trust the process. There are some things that need to be let go of before the new birth can happen. Okay. All right, and it reminds me of that Hopi prophecy of where they talk about saying, we are at the 11th hour and to jump into the river and let go of the side. Those who hold on to the side will be destroyed, and come into the center, see who is with you, and let the river take you. The river has a destination. Okay. And of course, it is a lot of water. And a friend of mine had a dream, it's a really powerful dream. And I've actually been hearing of others talking about having dreams about tsunamis. And of course, this is a lot of water. And there have been tsunami warnings around some of these earthquakes that are happening. But what was interesting about her dream was that there were people surfing the tsunami. And so, dream wise, water is the emotions. And so I feel like it's asking us to surf this emotional wave. It's a huge amount of emotion, okay? And that we're being asked to we're being asked to navigate during these times of great change, okay? So it also brings up unconditional love. And we know that compassion is the highest form of love. And Neptune and Pisces, we may feel the suffering with all these changes. So many people are suffering, and there are also many people crossing over. This emotional field is of It's like being a psychic sponge in a way of really feeling what is happening in the field. And there is a lot of suffering, that there could be a tsunami of suffering coming up. And it's really important to be able to stay present to the suffering in the world, but to not take it on as our own, because that is when we drown. That's when we're no longer surfing that tsunami. Okay. And it's bringing in unity consciousness. And unity consciousness is about the ability to hold the whole experience of life, the deep love and compassion, um, as well as the deep truth and the changes that are happening. The changes need to happen to be able to move into a higher frequency, and it's being able to hold all of that. And it's important to remember that we are never alone. Much help is here. We just need to ask. And it may not always come in the form we think. I read this and thought it was great. It said, I asked for flowers and I was sent rain. So know that your prayers are always answered, even if they don't always come in the form that you think they're going to. And to remember that we've never left the source of all creation. We're having an experience of separation to grow the greater reality. And the shift into unity consciousness is happening. And love is the key that opens the door. Love is still the only way. There is nothing, as they say, secretly, the whole universe is made of love, and there really is nothing else. So, anyway, and it's really also about the Christ consciousness, the cosmic Christ within. And namaste, the God in me honors the God in you. All right. So wishing you all a wonderful 2 weeks until we meet again with the Pisces new moon, which is lots of water. I'm still offering a discount on readings, and the information is in the description box below. So, as I said, wishing you all a wonderful month, blessings, and namaste to all.